Top of morning to viewers. My name is Dimitri. My name is sorry. My name is Dimitri White, and my name is Friendly Gamer, and welcome to a brand new live stream. If you haven't seen the description yet, this will be much different than what is depicted of my previous streams. And this is actually going to be about what can time not change, as I will be discussing about this. But first off, if you notice that I have a live chat right over there, I would like to see who's on as of right now, and well, also to see how everybody's doing before I begin. And I do apologize if you experience any lag, as it is normal for me to encounter that. Also, I will be getting going pretty soon on this. All right. This is going to be about what can time not change. There has been a few things that back then that still exist to this day. This will be about the existence of there. Time can't not change the existence of conflict and war, the desire for peace, and also the existence of sin. The thing is, with the existence of war, during the Revolutionary War, one of the major figures in there before the Revolutionary War actually got started is that one person actually specifically was actually the Americans at that time were getting annoyed that that Britain was actually putting out all sorts of rules, and they couldn't expand out to the west, and due to the safety of them, but the Americans didn't see that. They were seeing it as a restriction on their freedom. And one of the famous lines from this speech from the Second Virginia Convention is "Give me freedom or give me death." Now this is an old English language here, because this actually takes place in the 18th century, or what some people would call the 1700s. And this convention was actually held by a organization known as the Sons of Liberty, and they actually were doing propaganda against the British. And this was actually their speech to the Second Virginia Convention was one of the ways to actually help get people recruited into the militia. And some of the first shot was actually fired by the British themselves. I won't be going into detail about that. That'll be a later video or live stream. Next up will be the Kurds and Turkish relations, which is modern times. Of course, Turkey and the Muslim faction known as the Kurds actually did not have a really good relations back then, and it is still evident to this day, as Donald Trump actually was confronted by the Turkish government to actually pull some of the troops out of the border to allow the Turkey to actually attack the Kurds, who were our longtime friends. And what I mean by our, I mean the U.S. Kurds are actually the longtime friends and allies of the U.S. and it would actually Donald Trump actually did have some conflicts with this. The the thing with it between the Kurds and Turkey was actually the fact that they were of two different teachings of the Muslim religion back then. Now Turkey is not. I don't. People won't think that they are part of a major religion or classify themselves, but at this point it's actually unsure. But back then they were both Muslim religions. However, they were of two different factions. So now on to the Civil War era. Of course, you know how that went, where the Union actually won against the Confederates, but I'm going to be talking about the parties between the two. The Confederates were the Democrats, as well. The Democrats actually were against what the Union was going up against, and of course, the South was actually being heavily taxed by the North themselves. So if you say that slavery is the main reason for the Civil War, you are dead wrong. There are more than one reason for this Civil War, and one of the more prominent reasons is actually the heavy taxation to the South, because the South was more agricultural and the North was more industrial. If you notice the two differences, and the North couldn't actually get proper supplies to actually get to make the things which they were making, and some of the states in the South were starting to segregate, which then escalated into a civil war. But the after effects of the Civil War actually, which is really where the existence of conflict actually really start to kick into gear. One person assassinated Abraham Lincoln, and that was actually Booth himself, which is, yeah. And the one thing which Booth himself said is, after hopping down onto the stage of the theater which Abraham Lincoln was in, this is what he said in the English translation: "Death to tyrants." Now, Abraham Lincoln himself was no tyrant. So the assumption of him being a tyrant by Booth himself was actually completely false. He actually brought freedom to the slaves themselves, as later on slavery was abolished during Abraham Lincoln's time. But also in honor of Abraham Lincoln himself, his shoulder up was placed onto the penny itself, and in certain editions of the penny, it actually shows a few of the places that he's been to, and it basically, in a few years, it actually basically the depictions on the back of the penny actually sums up his life, actually. Now we're on to the hospitality to this day between the Democrats and the Republicans. If you have watched politics for our country, that is, you'll see it's evident. Mainstream media is a lying one, that's for sure. And one of the trustable news sources out there is Fox News themselves. Fox News actually brings the truth, and they're actually well balanced. But as if you've already heard and paid attention to politics, there has been some news around lately that the Democrats have been planning on impeaching Trump, and that before they've been doing that ever since he was elected, and they just hate Trump 24/7, which is annoying. And the fact that Adam Schiff actually was holding Soviet-style meetings behind closed doors, and they were secret meetings as well. Some of the Republicans, if you've paid attention to politics, that is, actually barged it into the meeting, and Adam Schiff just took off running, which shows the obvious secrecy of the Democrats themselves. Eventually, when the hearings come about, and Adam Schiff will probably be lying under oath. And when he's caught doing that, Leavenworth. Next up, for the next subtopic as introduced to the thesis statement, is the desire for peace. Back then, before we even came around to this country, there was an Indian peace treaty where there was all sorts of Indian nations, and that this peace treaty was passed on by stories of mouth, and they were memorized as that. Sometime as time goes on, that the wording of the treaty was changed to help better understand it, and the qualities of a good leader were indicated in this treaty. The qualities of a good leader actually indicate, if you look to it right now, you can obviously see the qualities of a good leader with U.S. President number 45. Donald Trump, number 45. Donald Trump was described in the Indian Peace Treaty very well. And to this day, people also still want global peace permanently, and they have different versions of doing it. And there are some failed versions, such as communism. For communism, we can look to the Cold War era Russia, aka the Soviet Union. Soviet Union was a communistic government, and it was ruled under the dictatorship of Joseph Stalin himself, who actually, during the World War II, they actually stole some of our secret blueprints of the atomic bomb, and one which actually does the implosion effect and actually causes a bigger blast radius with plutonium. However, they were, according to the book known as Bomb, which I read it in elementary school in 8th grade, they were able to replicate this perfectly. And according to its ending, I am directly quoting its ending. Like it or not, we are in the story which will end humanity's life. It will come eventually, sooner or later. We just won't be sure. However, this desire for global peace, however, for socialism, we can look to Venezuela and its current condition. Democrats actually praise Venezuela, but however, they don't see the ugly truth. It's used to be a rich country and it's sitting on one of the biggest oil reserves, but now, ever since one of its presidents came into office down there, he turned the country upside down. He's been taken from the rich to give it to the poor, which at first sounds like a good idea. He had the wrong idea, because if we look to some of what would be classified as communist countries in Europe, in order to stabilize some of the communistic benefits, they had to have a free market. which is why they were able to sustain this type of government for so long. But unfortunately for Venezuela, that did not happen, as the free market economy was cut off, and some of the citizens down there are like starving. They go sometimes that they just have to wait in line for food, and some just go home hungry for the rest of the day. This is actually called the I can't remember what it's called, but it's a different diet. But this global peace, this permanent global peace, actually won't happen because of the existence of sin, which is the next topic. I will be going religious on this one because that's where the existence of sin came into play. At creation, just a few days after Adam and Eve sinned, thus creating original sin. The punishment of sin does not change, which is evident to this day because of all the death that is happening to this day. Wars, the existence of wars is a result of the existence of sin, and the ability to not have a global permanent peace is because of the existence of sin. This punishment does not change. Sure, we may be able to establish a global peace, but it won't last for long, as it will just all fall apart. There has been some terrorist events that have been happened in the past as a result to the existence of sin. Such as, let's take 9/11 for example. A lot of people actually died that day. And the existence of sin back to creation was a result. Every event that is happening is a result of Adam and Eve's doings. I've just in class here at Evergreen Lutheran High School, a class in English 11 actually read a sermon which it deals with mostly law with one paragraph of gospel. It actually describes how much we cannot help ourselves because we are dead to sin. And what I mean by we, I mean all people, not just the babies, everyone. One reason why the babies are also sinful is because of the original sin which Adam and Eve created. They may seem innocent on the outside, but inside they have the original sin. So don't get that wrong idea. This sermon actually talks about the gospel portion shows how God is just holding us above the flames of hell. And after that paragraph, it goes straight back to the law. And it actually shows that how many times we actually struggle to get ourselves out of there. It's all for the wrong intentions. Because no matter what we can do, we can't get ourselves out of that situation. As we're just hanging over the flames of hell. The desire for peace of a permanent peace globally will actually not happen because of this existence of sin. And if there's any topics out there which actually brings up this, and it actually, because true equality will never be achieved as a result of this sin. The existence of sin is the main reason for all the bad that has been happening. But also, because of the existence of sin, everybody has different things about them, even different looks. In a way, there is a benefit to the existence of sin, but there's a lot more disadvantages than the benefits. Sure, you may look unique and have different talents, but the way you use those and the thinking you have for those things is basically from the result of Adam and Eve. So yeah, that's the discussion. If you like this live stream, punch that like button in the face like a boss, and also hit that subscribe button and click on the notifications bell and click on receive all notifications, because however, sometimes this will not work as the algorithm is like it's just absolutely frustrating for smaller YouTubers like me, as is broken. I also have a Facebook page, and I'm also part of a Discord server as well. Also, if you have not seen any of my previous videos, please do feel free to check them out. If you are subscribed to me and have not seen any of my previous videos, some may be good, others may be bad because of their lag quality, but the audio, in the beginning of some of the videos, it may sound like I'm underwater, but however, it is not, as it will clear up later on in the videos. So please do excuse that. But afterward, if you like this one, please do hit that like button, and I will see you guys in the next video. Adios.